Greetings folks, in this video I'm going to be looking at the new radio from FlySKY, the FS-ST8. It's a middle range transmitter sitting sort of between the flagship Paladin PL18 and the budget priced but very capable FS-I6 and I6X. It's an 8 to 10 channel transmitter, operates on PWM, PPM, iBUS or SBUS depending on the receiver. Now this radio operates on a new protocol called the ANT protocol, ANT, based on the old AF-HDS-2A. Unfortunately, the radio as it comes isn't compatible with the AF-HDS-2A unless you add the external module, which is the FS-RM003 module. There are two versions of this radio. There's the standard version or the upgraded version. This is the upgraded version and it comes with the adapters to fit the external module on. If you get the standard version, you'll have to buy that extra. It's a real pity they didn't include the AF-HDS-2A protocol in the radio as it comes, because it means, as it is, you're going to have to buy new receivers. You can't use all your old receivers unless you put that external module on. It's just a bit of a pity. I also have a receiver. It is the FS-SR8 receiver, 8-channel receiver with iBUS and SBUS capability, which also comes with a battery voltage detection sensor or probes. And I also have a GPS sensor in here as well, which we'll have a look at. Okay, so let's go over to the website and have a look at a few of the specs before we actually have a look at the radio itself. So if we look at the transmitters page, you can see the PL18, the Paladin, runs on the AF-HDS-3 protocol, the FS-ST8 runs on the ANT protocol, and all these other radios run on variations of the AF-HDS. So with this new radio, we get 8 to 10 channels. We get more mixers, vibration, haptic function. You can customize some of the switches and knobs. A lot of the switches and knobs are turned off by default, so you have to go into the transmitter setting and turn them on if you want them available for use in to operate channels and mixers and things like that. 8 groups of linear mixing control, RGB and ambient light. I'll show you that. We can change the color of the LEDs. Supports 20 models, firmware updates. Stick mode replacement, you can center the sticks or swap mode if you want to. The upgraded version comes with the hardware needed to change modes and change to self-centering sticks. Firmware update via the FlySKY Assistant 3, which is only Windows compatible, not Mac unfortunately, but I believe they're working on a Mac compatibility eventually. You can display 3 telemetry values on the screen. And we have fixed wing, delta wing, glider, helicopter, multi-axis, FPV, car model, engineering vehicles like tracked vehicles, robots, boats and other models. You can also add a more sensitive long-range antenna. And the radio can be powered by 4 AA batteries or a 2S LiPo. You can switch between the two. It is compatible with all the C series sensors, and we have the GPS 01 sensor to play with, USB-C connection for firmware updates, and power supply as well, which is nice. And it has an attachment point for a mobile phone holder. The transmission power is less than 20 dBm. Range is stated as greater than 1K. The original FS-I6 and I6X have amazing range, so hopefully this hasn't lost any of that solid connection and range capabilities that those budget price radios had. And weight 420 grams, so it's a nice lightweight transmitter. Now you'll need to go to the FlySKY website if you want to download the full user manual, and it's worth doing that because it's quite a good manual. You only get a quick start guide in the box. And we also have firmware upgrades available on the downloads pages as well. All right, comes in a fancy black box. Quick start guide, nice padding. It's a good looking radio. There's the radio. We have, that's where the receiver was. I've got my receiver over here. GPS module and the extra bits here. Extra bits being the hardware for changing the setup of the throttle or changing the modes, And we have the adapter to fit the external module, which screws onto there and plugs into the ports. So let's open it up. 4 AA batteries. Have a look inside there. That's where you can plug a 2S LiPo. And these plugs are reserved for XT30 external. We have a whale tail style antenna, which is solid, nice and secure. Upgraded version, so we've got a few extra switches and knobs. But starting, we have the 4 channels on the sticks. This is a mode 2, so throttle on the left. 2 position switch, 2 position switch, 3 position switch, 2 position switch. Trim buttons here, up, down, they're sort of like toggle switches or joysticks. Power button there, couple of variable resistors, scroll wheel, and navigation buttons there. Now on the top we have a couple of self-centering dials, which is interesting. We also have USB-C and trainer port there, and there's the hole where you can put an external antenna. And on the back we have a couple of sort of back momentary buttons there on the upgraded version. These self-centering dials are part of the upgraded version as well. And there's where you can attach the mobile phone holder. Oh look, they've printed my name on here just to keep sweet with me. That's a bit cheeky. What you can also do is in the switch configuration, you can change the 3-position switch just to act like a 2-position switch. So that's interesting. So press and hold to turn on. Get a little tune, and here's the screen. Now we can have 3 telemetry values up here. We've got a couple of timers here, model, icon and name there. And this C1 is condition 1, and if we flick a switch we can go to condition 2. You can set these up in the model setup. You can see we have some blue LEDs here. We can change those colours just for a bit of fun. And if we have the receiver here, this is the FS-SR8 receiver, 8-channel receiver there. On this side we have bind, BVD, that's sort of battery voltage detection I suppose, or VCC, that's a little couple of pins you can use to monitor a flight battery, I guess. Sensor for plugging in sensors, and servo for, that's SBUS out or iBUS out. And we have the bind button here and LED there. I've plugged a servo in here just so we can make sure that it's going to work. Got a 5-volt battery here, I'll plug it in. And if you watch on the screen, once we plug the battery in, we get receiver voltage showing up there and on the telemetry part of it as well. So the receiver comes pre-bound, but I'll go through the bind process to show you what happens. If getting warnings from the transmitter. Go to receiver setup, bind settings. Here you can initiate the bind. You can also change how the receiver operates, PWM and SBUS, or we can do PWM and PPM and iBUS, PPM and SBUS, or PWM and iBUS. I use SBUS more than anything, so I'll leave it at PWM and SBUS. Change the frequency for digital servos and analog servos, but yes, I just tend to leave it on 50 Hertz for analog, and you can change from sort of telemetry receivers to non-telemetry receiving. So what we do is we put the receiver into bind mode, so you push down the button, plug a battery in, we've got the flashing light, and we start the binding process, and it is bound now. And when it's bound, if we go back to the screen, you can see the receiver voltage shows up there as well as the transmitter voltage. Just to show that it's working, ailerons on channel 1 are working beautifully. So if we push the top button, we get to the setup screen, I suppose. We've got transmitter setup. Let's go through them. Choose the model. Model select. Receiver is still connected, so I'll disconnect that. There we go. So I have made up a model called the X8, which is what I'll be flying with this one. But we have 20 model slots we can play with. Model name, that's where you enter the name. Select the type of the model now, so we can do Delta, fixed wing, multis, excavator, so that's a tracked vehicle where you would use the sticks to steer, I guess. Robot, glider, helicopter, boat model, car model, yeah, all very good. Copy, reset, and we'll get out of there now. And next you can set up the trainer there. Stick mode, you can change stick modes, calibration, system settings. Let's have a look at system settings, English, language, set up the alarms and brightness of the LED and all that sort of stuff. LED colour, you can change it from blue to yellow to rare, cyan, purple, white, colourful, so that'll do all different colours, all different options, on, off, whatever. I'll leave it on blue for the moment. You can set up the timers there. Switch settings. Now, a lot of these switches are deactivated to start off with, so you have to go into this page and actually turn them on. I guess they sort of, out of the factory, it's set up in a really simple position. You can also change switch 3 to 2 position or 3 position there if you want to as well. The other ones, they're only 2 position switches, so you can't really change them. Firmware update, about, help center, and factory reset. So that's the transmitter setup, receiver setup, bind settings, that's what we did before. Failsafe, here's where you set up the failsafe settings. Sensors, here's where you set up the sensors. RF settings, switch between the internal and external RF module. Sensor calibration and GPS settings. We'll play with them a little bit later on. Setting up the model. Conditions, this is where you can assign different conditions to a switch. I have condition 1 as no switches and condition 2 as switch 8 down, so you can put your dual rates on there or whatever you want to do. Rates, you can set up your dual rates here. C1 and C2 could be sport and normal rates. You have a throttle curve, throttle hold, V-tail settings. And we'll get out of there, then general menu. So this is the channel monitor. You can see all 8 channels are being monitored here. These are the momentary switches on the back that's operating that one. The self-centering dials on the top. Reverse channels, setting up your endpoints. Channel speed, you can make slow speed, say flaps for example, you can slow them down. And setting up your 4 auxiliary channels here. So it's preset with the first 4 channels on the sticks as normal. Then you have 5, 6, 7 and 8 as auxiliary channels, and you can set them up to do whatever you want to do. Then we have trims. Then we have trims and mixers, and we have 8 mixers, whereas the old FSI-6 only had 3 mixers, which is quite limiting. The i6X had a few more, I think, but yeah, 8 mixers is very nice. So a mix, what we do is, first of all, we turn it on, assign a switch to it, which is great, and then you have a master channel and a slave channel. So a mix basically means that you can combine channels to work together. For example, you could have the rudder and the ailerons working together to give you nice coordinated turns. You could have the elevator compensating for the pitching up when you put the flaps down, and you do all of that stuff in the mixers. And we'll get out of there, and that's about it. So we're just about ready to go for a fly now. I'll pop it in a model, and next up we'll see you out in the field. Alright, time to fly with the ST8. I have the receiver in my X8 and receiver stuck in there, antenna's just sitting up there. I have the GPS sensor plugged in, and I'm just going to put that up in the nose there so that it's pointing up and not shielded by anything metal. On screen I have, from the GPS, I have altitude, distance and speed on the screen, so we'll be able to have a look at that while we're flying. I plugged it in at home and it just found satellites nice and quickly and worked really well. So alright, let's pop it up in the air and see how it flies. I also have a throttle cut on this switch here, which works in the correct direction, unlike the i6 radio. Alright, so we still haven't got a lock yet. We do have a dedicated GPS screen, which I'll bring up. And can you see that? Yes, we've got 9 satellites, 3D fix. It's got the date and time accurately displayed, latitude and longitude. Alright, we're ready to go. So distance, speed and altitude. It's saying 38 meters altitude, so here we go. We can reset it to 0 here. So we're up and away. Flying nicely. Radio's feeling good. I like the curved handhold sides. They feel very comfortable, nice and light. Gimbals feel very smooth, very nice indeed. I don't know if they're Hall effect or just resistor, but they certainly feel good. GPS readings, we got 12 meter altitude, 54 kilometers an hour and 84 meters distance. You can see by glancing down at the screen, pretty easy to read too. So it's not inconceivable that you could look at those figures as you're flying. Let's do a bit of trim. Yeah, trim works well using the little toggle. That's quite intuitive actually, to do elevator and aileron trim on the same toggle. It works. Nice stuff. This is working well. Coming in for a quite close one. Great stuff. So this is a nice upgrade to the i6 and i6S. And over the i6 we've got 8 mixers, which is excellent. 8 to 10 channels. SBUS, iBUS, PPM if you want it. Very capable little radio system. GPS is working beautifully. That just plug and play, just plugged it in and it started acquiring satellites very quickly. Can reset the altitude position to your current position. You can reset the start position. You can have a dedicated GPS display page showing coordinates. You can't record all this stuff though, unfortunately, and that'd be nice, wouldn't it, to be able to record all your telemetry. Maybe future developments, but this is a good radio. This would be an excellent beginner's radio if you didn't want to go for OpenTX radios. Excellent for beginners and going into advanced as well, no doubt about that. It's working well. And we're home again. FlySKY ST8 radio with telemetry on screen, timers. I haven't set up my timers, so they haven't done anything. Receiver voltage, transmitter voltage. You can have pack voltage on there. Lots of knobs and dials and momentary switches, 2-position switches. Could do with a few more 3-position switches. You could just switch one out and change what sort of switch it is in the software. But yep, nice radio. I like it. Runs on 4 AA's or 2S LiPo, so that's all really good. You can even power it from a USB power pack as well. Trainer setup with the normal 3.5. FlySKY FS-ST8 radio. I like it. Thanks for watching.